News, weather, and traffic for the smartest audience in talk radio. News Radio 93.1.
And so we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That was part of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, a part that isn't heard as much as the famous part, but an important part because he talks about the importance of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. He was someone who really did love this country, just believed that it failed in some of its ideals. But he wanted to bring it back to those ideals, and he believed that the Declaration of Independence was a good thing. That's an important thing to realize. His legacy is important. This is what I posted on my Facebook today. You can send me a friend request on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter at PMOWFLA. This is what I posted on Facebook. I said this: there is no doubt this country is not perfect when it comes to race relations. But if you're looking for perfection from human beings, you'll never find it. But today it is also important to remember how much progress this country has made in a relatively short amount of time. We remember this today because we remember the person who helped lead us to progress and did so peacefully. We are a better country because of Martin Luther King Jr. We're not perfect, but we are a better country. Here's some stats that just show that. In 1958, 48% of white Americans polled by Gallup said that if colored people came to live next door, they would be likely to move. That's quoting the actual question. Today, or in 1978, that went down to 13%, from 48% to 13%. By 1997, the proportion had fallen to 1%. 1% of whites today would feel uncomfortable if a black family moved into their neighborhood. It was 48% in the 60s. It's not that long ago, in the 50s. But let's look at this compared to other countries. When researchers in 59 countries asked residents about the same thing, how they would feel about having neighbors of a different race move into their neighborhood, the United States ranked 47th out of 59 countries surveyed, making it more racially accepting than Japan, Mexico, Germany, South Korea, the Netherlands, and others. In 1964, a mere 18% of white Americans claimed to have a friend who was black. Today, 4 decades later, 82% of whites said they had close non-white friends, and 88% of blacks reported having close friends who were not black. There has been a lot of progress made today. In King's Day, the vast majority of Americans disapproved of marriages between whites and non-whites. Today, the opposite is true. Nearly 90% of the public approves of interracial marriage. We have made a lot of progress in this country, and a lot of that has to do with the leadership of the Reverend Martin Luther King and what he did. And by the way, he was inspired largely by the Bible. We forget about that as well. Saying that we're just as bad as we were back then would be beyond reason.
Use your smart speaker. Tell Google Home to play News Radio 93.1 WFLA.
Well, it's scary. My son works. I've been nervous to have him even go to his job because I don't know who's out there and what they're doing. And my husband was going to follow my son to school this morning because we just don't know what the volatility of the situation is with these people that react and they don't know the full story. And It's very scary.
That was chaperone and mom Jill Hamlin. She was there with the Covington Catholic school kids at D.C. at the pro-life march over the weekend. She is scared now because of that viral video that originally people thought that the kids were harassing a Native American activist surrounding him and mocking him. Well, when you look at the whole video, and the news is having to cover this, including CNN and the New York Times and the Huffington Post, reluctantly having to change their mind on this story, it showed a very different story. In fact, those kids had amazing restraint. They were being harassed by the Hebrew Israelites, really badly. Verbal, vulgar things that were said to them. And some of those Native American activists were also saying vulgar and nasty things to them, and they did nothing. In fact, that kid actually just stood there, and when other kids wanted to speak, he told them, no, be quiet. Don't give in to this. And they just did a school chant to try to get rid of some of the hate. Here's my question, though. Because of the reaction of this and the death threats, and now that mom's afraid, the school had to cancel today because of violent threats against the school. People like celebrities saying they're practically KKK members, saying that they should be doxxed where their information is put out, saying that they should be punched in the face. These are kids. What are we teaching the next generation? Seriously, what are we teaching the next generation? Because these kids did the right thing. They did not react. They literally turned the other cheek, like the Bible teaches. They didn't do anything violent. They didn't say anything violent. They did nothing wrong. They reacted just like we would want any kid to react. They did the right thing, and what happened to them? They get death threats. They're mocked on social media. They're called vile things by members of the actual mainstream media. And so on and so forth. And it continues. Violence called against them. How do you think the next generation is going to see this incident now? There's going to be a lot of kids, unfortunately, who say, you know what? I'm not going to react the right way. I'm not going to react peacefully anymore. If something like that happens to me, they're going to trash me anyway. So you know what? I'm going to punch that protester in the face if he calls me those things. Why not? People already hate me anyway. Why not return in kind? Kids are going to learn the wrong lesson from this. They're going to learn that the way you should react is the way that people reacted against them. With violence, with hatred, with vulgarness. And this is wrong. This is bad. This is the big picture on why this is so troubling of a story. Beyond the media bias, which is there. Beyond the fake news that Trump talks about. What are we teaching the next generation? We're not teaching them to be like Martin Luther King, because they were like Martin Luther King and they are being trashed today because of it. Instead, we're teaching them to be, I guess, like Antifa. That, you're more effective if you're like Antifa. This is wrong. I hope the kids don't get the wrong lesson from this. Stand up for what's right. Stand up for truth and do so peacefully. Who cares what the other side says about you? Do not fight fire with fire. Fight evil with good. The reaction to this has really just been beyond reason.
You're never more than 10 minutes away from the latest news, weather, and traffic. News Radio 93.1 WFLA.
So many people admitted they made snap judgments before these other facts came in. But is it that we just instantly say that's what it is based on what we see in that moment and then have to walk stuff back when it turns out we're wrong? Why is that? Do we keep making the same mistake?
Because we're desperate to get Trump out of office. That's why.
Not everybody, though.
That was Joy Behar on The View, basically letting the cat out of the bag. That was probably one of her most honest comments. When it talked about this whole controversy with the Covington students and Nicholas Sandmann against that Native American protester who is like a protester who has been protesting events like this all the time, practically a professional agitator. The reason why the media jumped on this story, the reason why this became such a big deal is because people wanted to believe in a certain narrative. And this is a problem not just in this story, not just with social media. A lot of people are focusing on social media and blaming that for taking this out of context. And there's part social media is a problem with this stuff. But it goes beyond that. This controversy happened because too many want to believe in something that fits a certain narrative. Instead of actually being curious about the specific individuals involved, too many looked at this whole situation from a collectivist mindset. What do I mean by that? Well, to a lot of people, Nicholas Sandmann, the kid wearing the MAGA hat in the situation, they don't look at him as an individual. They're not curious about who he is as an actual individual. What is his story as, like I said, an individual? No, all they care about is he is a symbol of a group, of a collective. And because he was wearing a MAGA hat, that means he must be bad. And he represents a group narrative. It's the same thing with Nathan Phillips, the Native American. To so many people in this country, they didn't care about who he is as an actual individual. When you find out who he actually is, you find out that he's basically a liar, lied numerous times, and he's basically a professional agitator who likes to stir up controversy. No, they didn't care about that. They didn't want to look at him as an individual. He's not an individual in the left's mind. He is a representation of an oppressed group. And that's all that matters. Who cares about the actual truth of the situation? Who cares about what actually happened? Who cares about the two individuals involved? No, they don't care about it. All they care about is the collectivist narrative. How does this affect the group? How does this affect society? How does this represent oppression versus privilege? This is the wrong way to look at things, and this is why we have so many problems in this country right now. Because we should be a country about individual rights. But instead of looking at individuals, we look at symbols of a narrative. And the media does this, and frankly, both sides of the political aisle do this at times. It's very annoying to me, and it's the wrong way to look at it. When you watch that interview on the Today Show with that young kid, you could tell he was just a young kid who can't believe he's in this situation and wasn't really trying to do anything wrong. But no, they don't care about who he is as an individual. He was wearing that MAGA hat, and that means he's a racist. They don't know if he's a racist. You don't know what's in his heart. That hat is not a symbol of racism to millions of people in this country. No. But instead, because we have a collectivist identity politics mindset, we keep getting into these situations that is really damaging debate in this country. And it needs to stop. What happens with these debates and this collectivist mindset, well, it is beyond reason.
You're never more than 10 minutes away from the latest news, weather, and traffic. News Radio 93.1 WFLA.
So if you've been listening to the whole hour, you would have listened to the bottom of the hour when Alan McBride played audio of Chuck Schumer on the government shutdown. Now, Chuck Schumer was giving lip service, and Nancy Pelosi has done this before, saying that, well, they believe in border security. They just don't believe in the wall. Oh, we believe in all kinds of other types of border security. You know what? Maybe they do as individuals. I'm not sure I'm buying that the Democrat Party actually wants the border secure. There are too many cases in the progressive left where they are totally happy to have as many illegal immigrants come into this country as they need. Now, what proof do you have of that, Mike? What do you mean that they want illegal immigrants to come into this country? Well, I want you to listen to some audio of the California governor, Gavin Newsom, talking about health care for all Californians. This is what he said.
We will never waver in our pursuit of guaranteed health care for all Californians.
Now, what you don't realize is when he put forward this plan of guaranteed health care for all Californians, he made sure to include what he calls undocumented immigrants, as we would call illegal aliens. That is a part of that plan. Not only that, but you have big Democrat cities in California like L.A. that are sanctuary cities, basically safe havens for illegal immigrants. Now, he isn't the only one who has said something like this recently. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio was on The View last week talking about health care that he wants to guarantee to all New York City residents, including illegal aliens.
If you're undocumented, and that's several 100,000 New Yorkers who are our neighbors, who contribute to our economy, they're undocumented. If they don't get health care, if they get sick, everyone gets sick. If the whole community isn't healthy, then we all suffer. So we're saying to them, we're going to give you a health care card. You're going to get a primary care doctor. When you need help, you get help. When your kids need help, you get help for them. And the whole community gets healthier.
Right there. Did you listen to what he said there? He basically justified the existence of what he calls undocumented immigrants, illegal aliens, for his city. Not only that, but he made the argument that they're good for the city. Having all those illegal immigrants in that city is good. Gavin Newsom, California, making that same argument. Then you have AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She voted no on a spending bill earlier this week that all the other Democrats voted yes. You know why? Because she wants to defund ICE. What does ICE do? Well, they're Immigration Customs Enforcement. She wants to get rid of ICE. Andrew Gillum wanted to get rid of ICE. More and more evidence that proves to me that the Democrats really don't believe in border security because they believe that illegal immigrants are good for this country. Now, why do they do that? Well, they want the votes. They know that if they placate to illegal immigrants eventually, and by the way, give them driver's licenses, eventually a lot of them are going to vote. And of course, they're going to vote Democrat. Now, here's the real problem with all of this, though. I want to sit behind this mic and tell you that the Republicans are different. The Republicans actually believe in border security. The truth of the matter is a lot of Republicans don't either. They're in bed with the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce wants the cheap labor. And so they really are uncomfortable with a lot of border security talk. Trump has pushed them in that direction. That's some good from Trump. But a lot of Republicans and most progressive Democrats, it's just all lip service. And really, it is just beyond reason. That's why we have not had our border secure, really, in a long time.
News for the ride home, right after Dave. PM Orlando starts at 5 p.m. News Radio 93.1.